Welcome to the second part of the video on fixing up a leg vise. This repair was pretty easy because all I'm doing is making a washer and two spacers to fit on the screw box. It's about the easiest repair you can do. If you don't have a lathe, you might have to go to a machine shop, and that's going to be very expensive because even though it's a simple repair, it does take a fair amount of time. This video will be very heavily edited because work on a machinist lathe is incredibly repetitive, and really it's like watching paint dry after the first couple of times. So I'll shorten up things as much as possible to keep it relatively interesting. Hope you enjoy. This is a Myford ML7 machinist lathe. It's about 65 years old, but it's still in pretty good shape. Everything moves freely. It's a nice little lathe, and it's good for this sort of job. What I'm going to do is use a center drill to spot both sides of the washers before I use a larger drill to go through. I'm trying to size it to about 0.9 inches, which is the size of the stub arbor that I have. I'll mount it on that later. Probably put all three of them together on a stack and do the taper turning all together so they all match. I'm just spotting the face of the discs because I think the larger drill bit's going to wander all over the place if I don't have a hole started already. When I'm using the drill, I'll drill from both sides, try and get it to meet in the middle. That's about as much as I need to do with the center drill. Piece of brass rod. Tailstock is Morse taper 2, which is what the drill bit is. Somebody's been trying to use this in a 3-jaw chuck and they've made a mess of it. That's part of the reason I think it might wander when I try to use it to cut in a Morse taper 2. Try it and see. It's working. Don't know why that clutch for the belt isn't engaging 100%. Well, I have to live with it. So we'll see if pre-drilling the piece makes the rest of the drill usable. Not ideal, but it's working. More difficulty drilling out this piece than I thought I would. It turns out the Morse taper drill I was using, well, somebody tried to resharpen it and made a mess. And now all I want to do is put a bevel around on the outer surface of this washer. It's not perfectly parallel, it's a bit wedge shaped, but again, it's a pretty simple application it's being used for, so I'll see if I can do it with a coarse file, switch over to a fine file. It's wobbly. Being careful to keep the tang away from my hand. Does like to grab it. Yeah, that's good enough. It's more or less round. Good. Well, this piece is pretty much done except being quenched in oil. I've got to take it to the foundry next time we have a foundry day, and that'll finish it off. So I've got two of the spacers mounted on this stub mandrel. I'm going to do a 10-degree taper turn to try to match this diameter down to the thin washer, this diameter to the leg vise itself. This is more or less the critical dimension. This just needs to be close, but the taper I want to match the bolster that's already there. So I'll give it a shot. This 1/2 inch piece or 5/8 inch piece is actually super glued in place to this that's being held by the arbor. I haven't tried that before. It's supposed to work. See how it goes. That's already at the limit of what it can do. I think I'll back it out. far as it can. Taper's only 1 inch long. Looks pretty good. I'm going to lock the slide in place. This green piece on the side of the lathe is actually a taper turning attachment, but it's for fairly long tapers. This taper's only 1 inch long, so it's really not much. Oh, good catch it. It's almost done. I think I'm going to check it now just to see how close it is. Oh, still lots to take off. I ended up doing the oil quench outside on a charcoal barbecue at relatively low temperatures. It seems to have worked pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. The parts are still obviously machine made, but the color's right. Won't fool an expert for a minute, but that was never the intention. The idea is to get this back into working condition where you're not going to do any more harm, and I'd like it to look good from 3 feet away. That looks pretty good.